Hello, Matthew. We're going to talk about something new and exciting, and I'm thinking about the computer game that is based on one of the most favorite, if not the favorite, mine book or book of readers of Leopold Tyrmand, that is the evil one, Zły. Do you think that is something good in translating literature into computer games? And it can work from the financial perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that of all of my father's books, certainly this is the most. It lends itself to this form, to all sorts of live action formats: movie, animation, live action movie, and video game. The plot, the action, the setting. The dramatic nature of the storyline all makes for an interesting game with different characters. The characters in the book are very interesting and action oriented. They're not just, plotting their way like a Jane Austen novel for relationships, but there's a lot of action. And of course, the setting is fascinating. Warsaw in the 1950s, one decade, 10 years on after the leveling city during the end of World War II, and the ruins that the people of the capital have to navigate through, the hooliganism, the communism having set in, the militia and the military police trying to keep order in a city that is incredibly still disorganized. Communism did not make for great order, so it lends itself really well, and it comes from a great culture of both video gaming and literature. I mean, we looked at what happened with The Witcher. Now that's obviously more of a mystical science fiction. But there's a similar sort of action orientation in these plots, these characters, these devices, and these historiographies. So I think it's perfectly set up to be a great game and later movie as well.
Uh, are you a player as well?
A little bit. I'm not, an obsessive gamer the way many are, but I've played, many different types of games over the years. I've played a decent amount of Call of Duty with friends to let off some
Who
steam.
doesn't?
And Halo back in the day. That might be before your time, but and I grew up with Nintendo and Sega Genesis and PlayStation and playing some of these games. And then more recently, I have played The Witcher, and I've played Red Dead Redemption, which is one of my favorite games. And that one I think is very similar in terms of it plays like a book or a movie. And given the choices, the narrative, and the plot devices, I think Zwe, the evil one, the man with the white eyes, the one we're working on, I think it could look a lot like that in terms of having different
Mhm.
choices to make, different outcomes in sort of a plot tree, decision tree. And then for those who would watch those playing the game, it could look like a movie. I mean, that's one of the things I saw with Red Dead Redemption, was that it almost looked like you were watching a movie when watching other people play it, which I found really interesting. And I think this one, our opportunity here to produce this, might have some similarities.
Yes, the evil one is similar to Wild West or DC universe when you have a classical evil versus good clash and moral background. But you are also an investor in Wall Street and you're still an active investor. What would you say about translating literature into the computer games from that perspective? Is it worth it, or is it a good business opportunity?
Well, certainly, yes. Video gaming is going up and to the right, as we say. The market is growing, and the of the producers are growing commensurately, creates huge economic opportunity. Poland is a leader uh, in video game development, given the tech-savvy nature of the workforce, as well as the structural labor economics. And obviously, there's some real world leaders in the sector, like CD Projekt, and we won't have a similar issue with rights as The Witcher and Andrzej Sapkowski had, given that I'm happily aligned with Red Deer Games and the founders and the partners. So we won't have some of that similar drama, which is nice. But I do think it's a very, very good opportunity, and this will continue to grow the Polish video gaming ecosystem in the marketplace globally.
And two last questions. First, how do you think this game would be seen from the other side of the Atlantic? You live in United States. You were born there. Do you think it will be something interesting for an audience that is not maybe very familiar with the 50s in the Eastern Central Europe? Why do you think it's universal?
Absolutely. Again, there's action, there's drama, there's pathos, there's interesting characters, there's the battle of good and evil, which is truly universal. But the setting is so interesting, and even though those in the West may not be so familiar with what happened in Warsaw at the end of World War II, and then as communism sort of set in behind the Iron Curtain, and especially in Poland, especially in Warsaw, given its sort of urban environment, these things are universal, and if it's done well, then it will attract attention. The Witcher, who knew about sort of the Polish mythology and the Central European mythology? The only thing people knew was Transylvania and Romania and the history of vampires with Dracula, but yet The Witcher took off so well and ended up becoming one of the top shows ever for science fiction and fantasy. So as long as it's done well and presented well and produced top notch, which I have full faith it will be, then I think it's a great opportunity as well to show this part of history. And it's not that far away. 70 years ago, people in Poland and the U.S. were alive during World War II and the 1950s, and remember this time on this side of the Atlantic. And then in the U.S., they can learn about it. It's not like it's so far removed from the experience of people in contemporary times that they can't empathize with it or understand it. So it'll be a great opportunity to teach them some history about the Polish region, about the post-war era, about Warsaw, etc.
And the last question, using the possibility that I can speak with the child of Matthew Tyrmand, what do you think father would tell you if he knew, if he would be still alive, about the concept of making a video game out of his book? Would he be excited about that?
Absolutely. He when he came to the West, he came to the USA. He was very, very interested and enamored with pop culture. What he didn't like was the cultural degradation in the culture war between the right and the left. And he always said that the right, the conservatives, needed to fight back and take back culture and produce great things in culture. And this is a great opportunity to do so. So if anything, he'd be not just a proponent of the media, the video gaming, and the opportunity it affords to teach and create, but also to bridge the divide in the culture war and to show that the great literature, his great literature, can be transposed and could be informative. And I think he would be hugely in favor of using his literature into these new mediums like video gaming to help teach culture and help win the culture war, the battle of ideas, help inform about communism, for instance. The game is done well. You'll get a feeling about what it was like to be behind the Iron Curtain, and part of the roles of the characters in this, especially the bad characters, will be part of coming from this sort of communist fabric. And so that'll be instructive, and that'll be, if it's done well, hopefully impactful in the culture war writ large.
Thank you very much for your time. I see that you're on the golf course, so have a great game. And I think we are also keeping our fingers crossed for our game, both of us, and not only both of us. So let us see what will happen. But I'm sure that with your father's book and with people around it, with their ideas, we can create something truly unique. And I really cannot help myself to wonder how this game would look like, but I have only positive thoughts around that. Thank you very much, Matthew, for your time, and see you in consoles and PCs when it will be ready. Take care.